Alright, today I'm going to be changing out the bump stops on the Camaro. Bump stops that originally came on the car, they rotted out completely. So what I'm going to be using is this polyurethane, and it's by Energy Suspension, and it is a universal bump stop. There's a part number 9.9137R, Jeep Universal. See right there, performance polyurethane components. So these are going to last longer than rubber ones. I mean, I'm telling you, those rubber ones just completely disintegrated over time. And these are really durable. So, because I'm having a problem, I go over bumps, and the bottom end, the axle will smack the bottom of the car. It could bend things up on the bottom of the vehicle, as well as you can make your shocks not last as long. You could really just shorten the life of your shocks. So I'm going to show you how to get these installed. And there's ways that people were doing it, because the way there's a little dip that comes down on the frame of the car, people were shaving that off. And I am really against modifying anything on a body of a vehicle. Right, this is where the bump stop sits. It's supposed to be up in here. You can see that it completely rotted off. And the thing that I see people doing that I do not want to do is they trim off this whole piece right here to be able to get the new bump stop to fit directly in there. It's something I don't want to do. So what I'm going to do is, what I've done is I bought some bolts, longer bolts, the same size. So that way, to make up for that gap that you see there. And I'm going to stick 2 nuts in there as well, just for spacers. So it'll run up like that, and it'll sit exactly like this using the pre-existing hardware. So I'm just changing out the bolts. I got some lock washers and extra nuts just to keep the spacing in here from being too gapped out. All right, these are going to be 2 13 millimeters that you're going to take out. Comes out just that simple. And you can see where the indentation is, and this is actually 2 pieces. So this is a plate. It's actually, wow, it's fused together. I'm gonna have to get these separated and cleaned up. And this is that piece here that people would try to just want to go ahead and trim off, but I don't want to do that. I feel like with this coating on here, over time, if you trim that off and you don't like treat it, it could rust and potentially just corrode the whole bottom of the car, which I've seen happen to cars that were in a junkyard. So I don't want to do any of that. Plus, I don't believe in fabricating a car like that at all. So, I mean, it's your choice if you want to do it that way, but this is just something that I thought of after seeing many videos of people doing all that, and that was something I didn't want to go through. Alright, as you saw, this was sitting up in here like this. So the bottom of this was smacking right there every time that I would hit a hard bump or anything like that, or a deep bump, pothole, whatever. And you would just hear it throughout the car, just BAM! Get the best of you and make me cringe, actually. And if you don't do something about it, you can wear out your shocks a lot quicker. And I paid a lot of money for this setup, for these shocks and lowering springs. Run up in there with that rubber grommet. The rear axle would come up high enough to smack that. And I mean, of course you see a big gap here between where the axle is and up here. Since the car is raised, the axle is dangling down, so there is a good amount of space. So when it's seated on the ground, it'll be a much closer. And I'm going to use this original hardware here, which I'm going to just run a couple those bolts through there. I'll even show you the size for it. And so, if you decide you want to do this yourself. All right, so I picked up this hardware at Ace Hardware. So if you go there, it's going to be M8 1.25 by 70, and just make sure you get the 3-inch ones, because these actually worked out really nice along with that hardware because of how it's going to be spaced out, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, here's how we're going to do this. I'll take the bolt, take the lock nut washer and a regular washer. I'll place it on there just like so. And you're going to take the bump stop and 2 nuts, and you're going to run both those nuts on there so you get it almost all the way down to the base of that bump stop. All right, so we got the 2 nuts on there. This is how it sits. So I'm gonna run the first one up in here, just kind of thread it through. And there's 2 actually like factory nuts, I guess you would say, that are, I'm guessing they're welded into the frame. So just get that lightly threaded on one side, and then I'm gonna repeat that same thing on the other. All right, if you decide to do this method, what you're gonna do is try to have the nuts on top, or sitting flush with the bottom of this plate, and because you want to try to keep all this whole assembly right up here, up against the frame of the car as you do this. So you're going to want to go from side to side. So take a 13mm wrench, or whatever size wrench that fits the nuts, which if you buy the proper, or the stuff that I bought, you'll be able to do this side by side. So hold it, using the wrench to hold those 2 nuts in place, and you can see how it's kind of going uneven there. So just go back and forth between both. Just get a wrench in place there, and just slightly go from side to side so that everything evens up, so nothing gets put out of place, and you won't accidentally cross thread anything with the bolts or the nuts that are actually in the vehicle. You just continue that motion until you're finished. Alright, so all I recommend is, for the final finishing touches, just use a regular hand ratchet. Just tighten it down, just keep going between both sides. Make sure everything stays nice and even. Oh, slipped off there. And that's it. Now you got your bump stop put in. Make sure it's nice and tight, it's not loose. You're good to go. And it is your choice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of nuts on the top of these bolts here, just for a little more added security. And these gloves really don't like to grip anything. These bolts aren't that easy to put on either. So that's pretty much it. Nothing too hard about it. Better than taking a Dremel tool and just cutting that whole piece off, which I don't agree with. If that's something you want to do, go for it. Plus, it's going to last longer than the regular rubber pieces that come on the car originally. So that's it. She's all done. Got new bump stops, new suspension, springs, shocks. See that drop? Barely any gap anymore in the wheel wells. I think she looks pretty good slammed. What do y'all think? Now she just needs a bath. Need to give her a wash and wax, some TLC, a little cleaning on the inside. I think she'd be good to go. Well, I hope that video helps anyone out looking to replace some bump stops. Either you can cut that piece loose, or do the method that I just did. Either way, it's up to you. Thank you for watching. This is Chemical Spore, out.